about my love? Wasn't it enough? Just let me know so I can...
But Ollie Gordon will not be suspended, according to the Big 12 Media Day. Somebody asked a hard question. Hey, Coach Mike Gundy, what are you doing about Ollie Gordon? And he said, nah, we're going to go ahead and get him some other ways. But, no, this year he won't be suspended. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
This tells me that they want him for Arkansas. That's what this tells me.
Want him for Arkansas. They want him for the whole season, sir.
Yeah, I mean,
I get it. But I feel like Mike Gundy probably, we know he's not afraid to basically put discipline on players. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, the Ollie Gordon situation, he knows how valuable Ollie Gordon is. He knows that he basically carried that offense last year, and he doesn't want to hinder his team. He wants to have his offense be at the top level that they were, that got him to the Big 12 championship game last year. You have a Doak Walker winner in Ollie Gordon, who is on pace, who could very well repeat easily the Doak Walker and even be considered Heisman. So he wants to see him succeed as well. And I feel like he wants to do what's best for the team. And he knows that if he suspends him, odds are he's going to miss Arkansas. And that's a game, a big, like, non-conference game right there as well.
This Mike Gundy should have dropped his nuts on this one, homie. I don't know. I hate the way that he went about this. I told another stream today, I said Mike Gundy and what he stands for has regressed, because James Blackman got one game.
Yeah.
And he was as much as a superstar of Ollie Gordon, if not a little bigger than that, because he had won the 𝗵𝗫𝗀𝗃𝗀. And he was supposed to be one of the best wide receivers. He was one of the best wide receivers we ever seen in college football ever.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave him one game, but then when it comes to Ollie Gordon, come on, man. I mean, that's what Ollie Gordon said. He apologized. He said, "I'm deeply sorry for the actions that led to my arrest on June 30th. I sincerely apologize to my family, everyone on our program, including our players, Coach Gundy, the staff, Oklahoma State University, and our fans. Regardless of the outcome of this pending investigation, I did not uphold the values I have for myself and the values of OSU football program. I'm committed to learning and growing from this mistake, and I will work to earn back the trust of those who I have disappointed. Thank you." Before Khalid goes, let's just listen to what Mike Gundy has to say, just for context.
Tailback, obviously an All-American last year. He was arrested for tailback, obviously an All-American last year. He was arrested for OUI last week. What will his status be for the opening game, and do you expect any punitive punishment from that arrest?
Well, Ollie's very fortunate that he was able to get out of that situation without anybody getting hurt. And when they called me the next day, I shared that with Ollie. First thing I said, "Would anybody get hurt?" "No." "Well, you're lucky. You could have hurt somebody else, yourself, and then you deal with that the rest of your life." I have three boys, 29, 23, and 18, 19, and we worry about that all the time. And Ollie's going to play. And I share this with Ollie. I said, "Ollie, we're in a time where you guys are essentially employees. You guys make lots of money to play this game. It's different than it was 5 years ago. And your punishment's going to be facing the facts. That's why we brought him here today." I said, "You're not going into hiding. You're going to face the music. You're going to have to stand up and talk to people and answer questions. And hopefully, more than football, you can learn from the situation you've been in. Because if not, then we have a real issue." But he's going to play, and I'm going to do what we think is best for Oklahoma State football, and I think it's best for Ollie to play. If there's any punishment, it's make him carry the ball 50 times in the first game.
So am I to assume there'll be some off-the-field punishment, be it running in the morning or those types of things?
We've had multiple conversations about things that we think that he needs to work on over the next month, well, really the rest of his life. But more importantly, there's things, and he's on a shorter leash right now, unfortunately, because I understand young people, we all make mistakes, but if we don't learn from those, then it's not really good. So we've had several conversations. We'll have more over the next month. I think that he understands how serious that situation was, and hopefully he can learn from it and move forward.
Thank you, Mike.
You bet. Thank you.
I absolutely hate that.
Yeah. What that screams to me is I don't want to suspend my guy. So let me tell you, we're doing stuff outside of it. Suspension.
Well, T-Bass says, do you support a guy working in a factory getting suspended from work for a DUI? It's two totally different situations. This dude is in front of the media. I'm sorry. Yes, I respect everybody that does do their day-to-day job, but you can't tell me that this is on the same scale of severity of a person that obviously when you're in the spotlight like this, you do have a responsibility because you're representing more than what that guy at the factory bagging potato chips or whatever, regardless. The dude's providing for his family, but this is affecting not only him, it's affecting his teammates, it's affecting the program that he plays a part of, it's affecting his coach, it's affecting his family. Like, you're not going to hear about the guy that got a DUI at his job and he walks away scot-free. That's why this is such a big thing. The severity level is two totally different situations. So, no, I don't support that from that standpoint. But for this, like, the guy's young and you need to set an example. And Mike Gundy has a history of setting the example, and he just chose not to. But 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗲𝗀𝗀, go ahead.
Yeah, he's really breaking away from Preston at this point. I know that Mike Gundy has had a history of defending his players. I mean, probably all of us know his like I'm a man speech, right, in front of the media all those years ago when the reporters were getting after him asking about one of his players, right? So he's not a stranger to these kinds of situations, which makes me even more surprised that there wasn't at least a 1-game suspension for Ollie Gordon, right? You look down at ETN, who transferred from Florida to Georgia, and he's facing a very similar incident, and he's facing a suspension for, I believe, the first game of the season at a bare minimum. And so you look at what the precedent is, and you have a coach who has generally defended his players from the media, but has handled things well. I am a little surprised that this is the route that Mike Gundy went. People can have very differing views on, well, if you suspend him, then you're also punishing the rest of the team, right? Because now the rest of the team has to go out there without their, one of their best teammates. Like, yeah, well, that's how you build accountability, right? Is when everyone, that's the part of being on a team, right? Is if you have one player who's slacking, it's up to everyone else to encourage him, to push him along. Man, back when I was in high school, like, we had our two-a-days, right? We had to run 200-meter dashes in 30 seconds or less. If one person did not finish under 30 seconds, we all had to do that rep over again. So you know what? There are a lot of reps where I had to literally get behind a teammate and push him. That's the kind of thing that I think Gundy is missing out on here. Is sure, it's worse for the program if he's not playing. It's worse for his teammates. It's worse for him, arguably. But
it is.
But like, you got to look at this from all angles. And that, look, Ollie Gordon, he's going to learn his lessons, whether he's punished on the field or not, whether he's suspended or not. But you have to take a look at precedent. You have to realize, hey, we need to also make a statement as a person, as Mike Gundy, and as a university, that we do not condone these actions, and this is what will happen in any similar incidents. They need to set that precedent for themselves. And also, as a teammate of Ollie Gordon, you want to hold him accountable, right? That should be the goal as a coach, to build a culture where players are accountable for one another, where they're checking in on one another. And I feel like by not giving Gordon a suspension, sure, you're helping the whole team out, because now you don't have to play Arkansas or South Dakota State, who is one of the best FCS teams in the country.
I was about to say, top two, North Dakota State.
Yeah, you get Ollie Gordon in both of those games, sure. I'm sure the players are happy about that, but you got to realize that as a sport, as a football team, right, there needs to be that kind of accountability, and you're missing out on a really good opportunity to build on that. And it kind of sounds harsh, but you got to make him an example, right? Like this is not acceptable to go out there and be, driving under the influence. So, I'm sure that Gordon's gonna change things moving forward, but I do think that there should have been some sort of suspension.
And
So-
something else too. For
Real
example,
quick,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, I mean, I see what you're saying, T-Bass. Like everybody's just a person, but if he was just a person, we wouldn't be talking about this. It wouldn't be so blown up in the media. Like he's an athlete. He's right now they're getting paid, so I call them professional athletes. Like if this wasn't such a big deal and he was just a person, then this wouldn't be such a big deal. The thing that bothers me so much is Mike Gundy did it for James Blackman, but didn't do it for Ollie Gordon. I don't care who he was. Like, if you have a code of conduct for your team, then everybody must get the same punishment. I don't care about what Bobby Bowden did at one point. Like, whatever he did during his time, I'm a Florida State fan, and I can't condone that. It's whatever. But Kirby Smart just did it for his superstar transfer. Ollie Gordon's got to get the same punishment, because what the message that you're sending to your team is that it's okay that if you're a superstar that you can go out and go party and do whatever you got to do, and if you get in trouble, it's okay. I'm not going to suspend you. We'll punish you other ways by making you run gassers in practice. Shut up. Like that's the reason why it just makes him look two-faced, because he already set the precedent with one superstar player, and he went against the grain and he did it, and now he's not doing it for this. It doesn't make any sense. And at the end of the day, I don't care about the factory worker. This is a kid that's got everything in front of him, that's making millions of dollars. And as a coach first, we want to make sure that the young man that we are coaching, that we're making sure at every single facet that he is a good person, or at least we're setting him up to do the right things in his life outside of football. So by Mike Gundy not doing this, number one, to me, you have failed that aspect of Ollie Gordon by not telling him that life cannot go this way and you must get punished for the things that you do. And now that you're in the spotlight, you have even more of a responsibility to be an example for everybody and our team and our university. You just don't represent yourself and the name that's on the back of the jersey anymore. And if he was to give him a suspension, I totally go on the same track. This would save Ollie's life down the road, because he would know hard and fast, I came off being the best running back in college last year. No ifs, ands, and buts. I put Oklahoma State on my back. Now, if we lose a game that I'm not there, then I'm going to put the pressure on myself. Now, if I don't win the Heisman like everybody thinks I'm going to win, I put that on myself, because I gave myself one less game to achieve my goals. You wouldn't think that he would come back not only a better person, a better teammate, not making no much super stupid decisions, because all that stuff was taken away because of one game. The impact of giving him at least a one-game suspension has more positive things that would come from it as Ollie Gordon a person than it would be from him not getting it right now, because you're just enabling this behavior once again to happen, and because you now just gave him a slap on the wrist. With great power comes great responsibility, man. It just is what it is. He's a different stature of person. So I get what you're saying, T-Bass, but like saying a factory worker and Ollie Gordon are just people, we gotta open up the door to reality, man. Like it's not. We wouldn't be talking about this if it wasn't such a big deal. And then what makes it even worse, to add on to it, is Kyrie Jackson just passed away from a drunk driver, and this could have been Ollie Gordon's situation. So if you wanted to be, if Mike Gundy really wanted to drop his nuts, he would go ahead and suspend him just off of that alone, just to set an example. But it's okay. It's okay. You can enable him to be the next person that goes and kills 3 people because he wanted to have a fun night out, and that it's okay if it happens. I'm sure that's not the conversation, but I'm just saying, like, these are the doors that you're opening by not doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also going to show future recruits, future players as well. Hey, I can go out and party. No consequences at all.
It's a
That-
culture
that's-
issue.
The other thing I don't like is he brought him to a media event where the best players in the conference have to show up and speak to the media. That should be a privilege. There'd be no way in my football program that Ollie Gordon would be packing up his bags after something like this and going to the Big 12 media day. I'd be grabbing another player for our team to represent Oklahoma State. It could have started right there. It could have started right there for Mike.
Yeah.
I just
like show him.
I don't know.
Like,
this is like the worst case scenario for me.
Even that would have been better than just saying, "Oh, it'll be like extra gashers or something like that." Because you'd be like, "Hey, we don't want someone like that to represent our program. We don't want a person who does DUIs and get in trouble like that to be representative. So why would I bring you?"
Yeah. Well,
100%
T-Bass, I'm not
agree
saying
with
that the athletes are gods either, but you can't tell
And
me
for
that
being-
the influence of a Tiger Woods doing what he's doing didn't affect the golf world and little kids. For nobody's saying that him going out and cheating on his wife and getting all these women pregnant or whatever he's doing, like, you know, being on drugs and all that it's okay. We don't look at Tiger Woods the same now that we've known all that stuff now that we used to when he was the champion, winning multiple championships, was the best golfer. He's the 20, 30-year-old Tiger Woods is different than the 40, 50-year-old Tiger Woods or however old he is now. Like, nobody's going around and saying Tiger Woods is such a great person. He's like, no, EA Sports ripped his game away right out of his hands once they found out he was in all that stuff that he was in. That's what I'm saying. It's the potato chip factory worker is not getting any of that stuff taken away from him.
Yeah. Like at
This
his
is what
core,
it is.
everyone's a person, but like you see people, you know, if they're hooping, they're gonna yell Kobe when they hit a shot. You're not gonna hear someone yell Lay's factory worker whenever they hit a shot. Like, that's just the reality of it. Like, yes, everyone is a person at our core, right? We are all people. Me and Patrick Mahomes, we are both people. But like the Patrick Mahomes signed a like massive contract. He's the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is like, he has the spotlight, and under the spotlight, everything you do is magnified, the good and the bad, which we're seeing now with Ollie Gordon.
And a bunch of people are going to look up to Ollie Gordon too. Football players are going to look up to the year he had and be like, see this, and that's not, and who knows how they're going to react to it. Because if we're being honest, people will really, really idolize their players. They will do stuff that they do, try to reenact shit, and that, pardon my language, I'm sorry about that, but it's going to help basically show bad influences to younger kids, and that's something you don't want.
Well, how awkward is it going to be if he does win the Heisman Trophy, and the first thing that everybody's going to bring up is the fact that he got a DUI at the beginning of the season, and Mike Gundy thought it was just okay for him to continue to play, and now it's going to sour that whole Heisman presentation up for the whole week, because that's what is going to get beaten over Ollie Gordon's head the whole time. Doesn't matter how well he did during the season. Doesn't matter how well he represented the school the rest of the season. That one little thing is going to linger over his whole head. And as the Heisman committee, how would you feel about that? Cam Newton had to go through that. And he had did that stuff. He had did that stuff before he had transferred out to that Texas school, that JUCO school and won a national championship. That thing lingered over his head for years. Yeah. So, like, it's going to be awkward if he does win, the Heisman Trophy, because that's the one thing that's going to tarnish that, and that's, it's going to suck for him. But really, the one that I'm going to be pointing the gun at is like, Mike, you allowed this whole thing when there should be one of the best times of his life that he probably could have celebrated the year after this. You've enabled him to win the trophy, but then you tarnish the full celebration of what this is actually about. And act like that's not going to, he's going to hear it the whole week if it happens. So,
or hear how he's lucky that he didn't get suspended because he's up here. It's not that's what he's going to hear, instead of hearing, oh, look at what Ollie Gordon did this year, having, let's say, for example, over 2,000 yards and like 30 touchdowns, absolutely crazy year, projected to be a first round pick from how good he played. Like all that, all you're going to hear is the DUI. And now like accountability is huge, even in the NFL. Like we've seen it time and time again. The most recent at my team, that's why I'm bringing it up, with 𝙎𝙤. He didn't listen. They weren't afraid to suspend him. And look at what happened with 𝙎𝙤. His whole attitude changed. Having a discipline on a player helps them more than it does negate them. And that's why I'm kind of sad to see this as well.
Yeah, at the end of the season, no matter what he does, no matter what happened as a result of, what Mike Gundy said, no matter what option he chose, there was going to be a but at the end of like looking back at the season. Either it's going to be, hey, he rushed for 1,800 yards, but he missed a game because of a DUI, right? If he got a suspension. But now it's going to be, hey, he rushed for 2,000 yards, but he had a DUI and wasn't suspended for a game. Either way you look at it, there's going to be an asterisk next to his stat line for the season. One of them, hey, he did all this despite missing a game. But now it's going to be he did all of this, but he didn't miss a game. He wasn't suspended by Mike Gundy. And I feel like Gundy going away from this precedent is really, really going to hurt anyone involved, including himself, more than it's going to help anyone.
And here's the thing:
there's not a lot of positive that's going to come from this if that kid ends up winning the trophy. It would be more celebrated if he did get the 1-game suspension, or at least something, and he won, because he would have to go through adversity to get there. Having one less game off your schedule to win the Heisman Trophy,
it's crazy.
And you still won it. Yeah, you might be deserving of winning that joint. Like to be completely honest.
As we hate it, we gotta that's how people look at last year's Biletnikoff winner, Marvin Harrison. He missed time and he still won it. Like, we gotta just sit back and admit that
shouldn't have won it. That was crazy.
I agree.
That is true.
Should have went to Luther. I'm not gonna deny that. But if we're being honest here,
should have went to Luther. Malik
Neighbors.
I say Luther. That's who I think.
Luther didn't have the touchdowns.
Both of them were better. Both of them were better.
Luther didn't have the touchdowns. Malik did.
Yeah. But both of them had better years than Harrison, though, if we're being honest. But, you still got to look. The fact he won it is still impressive. We can't deny that, whether we agree with it or not.
Yeah, I mean, again, we could talk about the same thing until we're blue in the face. But the fact of the matter is, I think all of us agree that, I don't like the enablement of any situation, especially a superstar guy like this that's already got everything his way, and now you just letting him get away with one more thing and not saying that, I don't care how much of a superstar that you're not, that you are, you're not going to do that here because you represent more than just yourself at this point. I did it to James Blackman, but I'm not doing it to you.
Yeah.
Come on, brother.
Crazy.
Lack of accountability. That's
Yeah,
all it is.
I don't like that. But yeah, great discussion, man. I'm glad you guys are in the comments section talking about it. But let me go ahead and read some of the last comments here, because so it only affects all that when people make a big deal out of it. Oh, I read that. What up, Torque? I don't see anything wrong with Gundy not suspending him. It should be an NCAA or OK State admin thing, not all on Gundy. Dude wants to win games. I don't know. Gundy was the one that recruited him. He wouldn't be going to that school if it wasn't for Mike Gundy.
NCAA can't do stuff like that at the individual level. It's all up to the university and coaching staffs, which is the key difference between, one of the key differences between NCAA and NFLs. If that happens to an NFL player, you more than likely will face a suspension, which another reason why he should have faced suspension is because if you do that at the next level, you do that a year from now, you're gonna get a suspension slapped on you by the NFL.
And let's be honest, it'll probably be more than a game. For the NFL. It will be.
T-Bass said, let them play takeaways NIL money. That's not up to the school or anybody else.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
They can't get involved right now.
That's up
That's
to
up to the
everything going
collectives
on.
or whoever wants to pay them the money.
Yeah, that's up to individual businesses and donors.
I would say this too.
I mean, nothing wrong with partying, drinking and driving, of course, is a huge no-no. See? And I mean, right there. Yeah, I don't care. He's a young kid. Let him do what he's got to do. But the drinking and driving part is what's...
That's the issue.
And the problem is not a lot of people can go out and party and still have the restraint to not, pick up the keys and drive themselves home after they've been drinking too much. So I'm glad you get it in the comments, but...
Well, hold up. That DUI will be long forgotten before January in the Heisman Trophy.
I was about to say,
if Cam Newton got shit for throwing the laptop out the window or having a stolen laptop with his name written on it and thrown out the window at Florida when he was long removed for there for 2 years, this will definitely get brought up.
And
nobody's going to forget. Nobody's going to forget. And then with the Randy Moss thing, Randy Moss went to Florida State and Bobby Bowden kicked his ass out of the university. And it took him a long time. And now Randy Moss was a 5-star all-worldly recruit. When Bobby Bowden kicks you out of your school and no other school wants to take you but Marshall, yeah, he had to deal with his lumps and bumps. So that's a completely different situation because Randy Moss got reprimanded.
And especially in today's day and age with social media, you look at back when Josh Allen got drafted by the Bills, right? There were all those tweets in the draft process that got brought up from when he was in like middle school or high school saying things he shouldn't have, right? Nowadays, people's memories, like they don't forget. They will go and dig stuff up from your past. And that's just the reality of today. So to say that people will forget it by then, I just don't think that's going to be the case.
It's going to be the only thing that comes up. If Ollie Gordon wins the Heisman, we are definitely going to be like, wow. Yeah. And what about the DUI thing that happened?
It's going to be someone who won't forget about this either. NFL, GMs, coaches, they ain't going to forget about this.
He's going to get asked about it in the draft process.
I can guarantee you. Rip him a new one.
Every single team will bring this up in some form, a way that he interviews with. It's going to be brought up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite the opposite. This is going to be one of the only things discussed in January should he win a major award or go in the first round of the NFL draft.
It happens all the time. I don't understand why people don't think that it does. It's such a polarizing storyline. You're not going to be able to get around it. Like,
who was it in the draft that story got out from college about a passing they did? I forgot.
It happened to Will Levis most recently. Will Levis got it. They dug up some old tweets from him, and they were talking about that he was racist. Or something.
No. I'm talking about old off the field issues. What's it, neighbors? One of the wideouts had off field issues that people brought up, and
I think it was Neighbors, and I know Jalen Carter had stuff the year before.
Yeah. Good point. No one forget about Jalen Carter's thing.
I mean, you have guys like that Niners offensive lineman. I know he was provoked by Carter, but he brought up stuff on the field about what happened with Jalen Carter in that racing incident that got one of his teammates killed. It was brought up on the field. People do not forget in today's day and age. I'm sorry. Like that's just how it is.
Exactly. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we beat this pretty dead, but like the thing is like. It's happened. Like, I don't understand why people think that it's not going to get brought up. It's too polarizing not to talk about. And Micah Parsons. About him being an asshole.
This happens all the time. People look at this and it still gets brought up to this day. People still think that Aaron Rodgers is a complete dick.
You know what got brought up today? Like, not directly, but indirectly, is Kenny Dillingham came up to the podium and they were talking about like his expectations, and he was just like, I'm just trying to get good people and to change the culture around here. Because if y'all don't remember, when Jaden Daniels transferred to LSU, his teammates trashed his locker and everything. So like they're trying to deal with the bad seeds of like all of that crap too. And indirectly, he brought that back up today. So, like, history, you don't forget bad, especially bad things. Now, if it was a good thing, let's say Ollie Gordon helped some old lady with her groceries and brought them into her house and gave her like $100 spot and then left. Nobody's going to remember that by the time he wins the Heisman, because you know why?
No,
because that should be the expectation. No, well, it should be the expectation of the athlete. That's why nobody will ever remember. Oh, he's supposed to do that. But
if you bring up Randy Moss in college, that's one thing that gets brought up.
Yeah, I know all that about Randy Moss, but nobody talks about it anymore. Just about how great the NFL career, yet that's all forgotten. No, it's not forgotten, but it's easier to forget when you know that he already went through. Like he got kicked off the team. There's no, and he took
the consequences of his actions.
Yeah, it's easier to deal with it and not talk about it. Just like nobody talks about the Michael Vick thing anymore. Michael Vick went to jail and he never did it again. There's no need to keep bringing it up.
That gets brought up when someone mentions Michael Vick too. No matter what happens on the internet, if someone mentions Michael Vick, someone's going to bring it up. Just like if you mention Randy Moss at Marshall, it'll be brought up that he got kicked out.
Randy Moss's punishment was being a 5-star all-worldly wide receiver playing at Marshall. And no other school wanting you. That was his punishment. And he still made it out. And he still did what he had to do. It's not like Randy Moss was the greatest person ever in the NFL. Nobody's going around. Him and Terrell Owens should have never been like a third ballot Hall of Famer for doing push-ups and this, stupid stuff like that. Like
Randy Moss,
whatever. They weren't killing nobody. To not make the Hall of Fame because you were an asshole is like,
yeah,
that's stupid. But
put my boys.
These dudes weren't out there getting DUIs and everything when they were in the NFL either. So I mean, NIL and the way that college football is nowadays is completely different, man. I mean, kids are getting paid from being in the video game now. So